Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Collider Studio, presented by Saratoga Spring Water. I get to talk to two filmmakers behind an exceptional midnighter here at Sundance, In My Mother's Skin. My God, your movie. It burrowed its way into my brain and it's not leaving. Cicada style. Oh, yeah. Cicadas creep me out in general.
Cicadas are awesome creatures. Like, they really just feed, and I'm glad to be the queen of cicadas.
And the process too of the rebirth.
Exactly. That
was the purpose of having cicada for your character.
Correct, because initially it was a different insect, right, Derek?
A beetle, but my production designer, Ben Pedera, told me, and his partner, Carlo Tabihe, told me, like, maybe we can play around with the cicada element because of the rebirth and how our protagonist, Tala, rebirth in the end. So.
Perfect pairing there. Kenneth, I'm going to give this duty to you because our audience might not know what your movie is just yet. Can you give a brief synopsis of In My Mother's Skin?
So the film happens in the last months of World War II, and we follow this young, innocent protagonist named Tala, and together with her younger brother and her very sick mother, they wait for their father to arrive in this isolated mansion. And then one day, when the mother gets very sick, Tala is forced to accept help coming from a flesh-eating fairy played by Jasmine Curtis-Smith.
Stop giving me that look.
That promised her protection. So
I'm going to get to this later, but you just name-dropped Tala. She's so good.
Oh my gosh.
How does a young actor carry a movie like this?
She's so amazing. I mean, until now, I'm still all like working with her. I mean, working with you guys.
Oh my gosh, no. Even as a co-actor, like whenever I shared the set and the scene with her, she commands attention, and as the fairy, you know, I'm meant to be the one like commanding the scene, and I feel like the way she reacts is just so, she absorbs everything, and she's 15, is that right?
15, yeah.
She's 15, but
she just turned
16. But she does have a lot of theater background, so that really, she's amazing.
Whatever experiences she had, whoever trained her, I mean, A+ work there, because she is something else in this. I wanted to go back to the beginning, Kenneth, for you, because it is a feat to get a first feature off the ground, and I feel like many think, like, after you do it once, you could do it again. Was that the case with this feature now? Was it any more difficult, or was it easier now that you had another film under your belt?
It's a bit weird because I wrote this concept way back in 2015 as a short film. And it was based off a French film, Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro. I think it's obvious.
I like any reference to Guillermo, and you could feel it, and I like that feeling.
So made this as a short film, and eventually I had the privilege to make my first feature film, which is called Ma. Then after that, 2018, I discovered the concept again and approached my producers from Epic Media, Brad and Bianca, to maybe we can play around with this story that I really want to tell. And then the process is like a bit long for a Filipino project. It's a bit long because we started writing 2018. So it's like 4 years of writing and developing and research. So yeah, I mean, it's really amazing, fun process, talking with everyone, giving ideas about the story, and we're very happy to have this kind of story now. So,
you should be. You should be very proud. So many years of work went into writing the script. What would you say is the biggest difference between how you initially pictured this movie panning out and then the movie you wound up with in the end?
I mean, everything's compromised, but I'm very happy how it came out. In the short film, when I first wrote this story, it was periodless film. Like, I don't know what setting or the milieu of this film. And then cut to 2020 when the pandemic hits. I was talking with my father, and he was telling me the story of my grandfather, who was a guerrilla soldier way back in World War II. And he was telling me this, the anxiety, you know, the claustrophobia, the depression of war and having that external enemy coming in your house, you know, and it's World War II. And I felt the same way when the pandemic happened. So I told my producers, I think we need to make this a World War II. So yeah, I think that's the biggest difference between the short and this one.
That's a very, very effective element that you added to this. Jasmine, so you get this script. I've got to imagine there are some big burning questions about, you know, like what your character is capable of, what she's all about. So when you first get the script, what are some of the biggest questions you had for Kenneth in order to fully be able to like access what's going through her mind?
Initially, I really just wanted to understand first how she would visually appear. Like, what did she look like? Because that in itself is a big factor when you're watching horror films, right? What this flesh-eating fairy, like, she's not a fairy, you know? She's flesh-eating. She invades the body of the person that she attacks. And so I felt like having that firsthand picture or visual imagination helped me go back to the script and reread it again. And just the fact that there was this play on her looking like a religious artifact or saint or statue or Mother Mary, and the costume in itself looks like our baby Jesus, Santo Niño, in the Philippines, because he has the frame around his face, he has all the embellishments on the big garments that they wear, and it looks exactly like what the fairy looks like. And so I felt that was such a freaky way of incorporating religion, hope, and at the same time, just horror. Like, how can you, that mix of religion and horror, I think, is a big thing, especially in our country. So, because we're mainly Roman Catholic. So that was what got me to jump on and start asking questions. And like, how serious do you want the character to be? Do you want her to be freaky and like scary right away? But Kenneth told me that he really wanted her to have this kind of solemn feel, that every time she would come on screen, it wasn't like a jump scare, or like you didn't have that traditional fear. It was kind of like a simmering fear every time she would pop up. So that was what I enjoyed, yeah. And
great success in that respect. That is what you feel.
Thank you.
I have so many follow-up questions. I guess bringing up that feel, I don't know if I'm, getting too specific about it, but how much are you thinking about like every little nuance of your facial expression in every scene as the movie progresses? Because like it is like a solemn and very simple performance, but any little like twitch or different look, or your eyebrows move a certain way, it can completely change the tone of a moment.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I would often ask him if he would be bothered by certain like movements that I would make with my face, because sometimes I would be conscious about my forehead, and I really wanted her to come off as this like statuesque, kind of porcelain facade, so that would initiate the freakishness of the fairy character. But he said, no, it's okay, that's fine, because it also adds character and depth to the fairy without you having to show too much emotion. And we also played around with the voice, like we experimented how we wanted that. Yeah. And then in post we did a few recordings of how to add just another layer, but still using the original voice that we used on set and the original.
But you were the one who gave me the idea of a fairy not blinking at all.
That's right.
How do you do that?
Well, the biggest inspiration was the scene in the Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe. I mean, he was saying, I think, a 3-minute line, and his eyes were peeled open, and that freaked me out. Like, when I was watching that scene for the first time, I wasn't sure if I wasn't blinking. Like, was I blinking the same time he was blinking? So I had to rewatch the scene again, and that freaked me out watching it, and his presence and energy just in that scene. So I think that I wanted to bring that to the fairy.
It really worked.
Another very effective thing. Also, it's like once someone tells me like don't blink anymore, then all of a sudden I'm like blinking and I can't stop.
Exactly.
Something else. I am always really interested to know about lore and like movie Bibles and everything. So Kenneth, how much did you think all of that through with the fairy in terms of like where she came from, why she's there in particular, like if she even has an end goal or if it's just this like constant cycle that could never be broken? How much of that kind of information do you have?
So all elements of the lore of the film is basically based on the existing mythology in the Philippines, which is the swung, which is the monster, and the encanto, which is the fairy. And growing up as a kid in the province, I mean, even in the Philippines, you keep hearing these stories about the swung and the encantos, and encantos living inside this tree and giving powers or even giving fruits to the people. And growing up listening to that, it really stuck me, even like for sure for you, right?
Oh yeah, because these are things you would hear like from your aunties, uncles, your parents, and they try to scare you with it, like don't go out late at night.
Yeah, because the encanto will, But in this film, I really want to give something new towards that lore, towards that mythology. That's why I rebended some things to just to make it something new. And I'm really happy that it came out this way.
Something new and unforgettable. I really like, there's certain
so
visuals in this that I will not shake. One thing that randomly crossed my mind, I don't know if you've considered it, but how do you think the story might have changed if it was Bayani and not Tala who encountered the fairy?
Oh, that's a good question, huh? Because in my head, it's really like a young girl living in this adult life, living with, a lot of grown-ups and trying to live and, lost her innocence in a way. But with Bayani's character, I really want him to be this, because I want Tala's character to show the fairy tale side of this very crazy, scary world, which is the World War. And for Bayani, I really want him to see the real horror of the war. That's why I really want them to, contrast and mirror each other. And I'm happy with these kid actors that they really pulled it off.
My heart is crumbling as I'm revisiting everything while you answer that question. Bringing up the kids here again, even with all of your experience, is there anything you saw the two of them do on this set that you wish you could go back in time and tell yourself when you were first starting out, like, give that a shot. You could be that bold.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like these kids are just fantastic and they take direction so well. They're very patient. And I think, and these times as well, where patience is kind of running out because how fast where our social media clocks, running, but they're able to really live in the moment and take direction from our acting coaches as well on set and even just from co-actors. So I think that's what I would tell myself. If I was going back 14 years ago, I'd be like, hey girl, just listen, trust. Like, yes, you know things, but trust because there's a bigger picture here.
And to add on that, I wrote Bayani's character really differently from what you saw in the film. Because I wrote the Bayani's character as this crybaby, timid, scaredy cat kind of boy. But when I saw James Mavie Estrella for the first time when he auditioned, he gave different persona to the character. And I really want that persona. So I changed everything for that persona. And it really worked. I am very happy I revised the script.
Oh, it did work. It worked so well. Their dynamic together couldn't be better. I always don't like asking someone like what is next after you're just basically releasing your miracle that is making any movie. But I've seen a lot of pieces out there that say you want a horror director to keep an eye out for. Look at you, look at Kenneth. And horror is my favorite genre. I love all storytelling. Horror is my number one. And now I would like to keep you in this genre. So is there any particular theme or corner of the horror genre that you've yet to tap into that you'd be eager to explore in a future film?
I'm developing a project right now. And it's all about generational gap. I really want to touch on that topic. And it's all about old people. and I want to, make it something magic realism in a way. And there's a touch of horror in it, but it's all about this generational gap between new generations and the old ones. And I really want to tap on that.
I feel like I already feel your ability to tap into those, but then that idea feels like it's going to take it to a next level, and I'm into it. I can't wait to see more from you, but I also can't wait to be able to shout to everybody about every little ounce of In My Mother's Skin, because you have accomplished something special here. Congratulations.
Thank you
so
very much.
To everybody out there, In My Mother's Skin, do not miss it, and stay tuned. We'll have more from Sundance for you real soon.